I Felt a Funeral in My Brain by Emily Dickinson, published 1890. I felt a funeral in my brain, and mourners to and fro kept treading, till it seemed that sense was breaking through. And when they all were seated, a service like a drum kept beating, till I thought my mind was going numb. And then I heard them lift a box and creak across my soul with those same boots of lead again. Then space began to toll, as all the heavens were a bell, and being but an ear, and I, and silence, some strange race, wrecked, solitary, here. And then a plank in reason broke, and I dropped down, and hit a world at every plunge, and finished knowing then. I Felt a Funeral in My Brain is a poem born from the genius of the 19th century poet Emily Dickinson. Published in 1890, but believed to have been written in 1861, widely considered Dickinson's most creative period, the poem, like all of Dickinson's other pieces, was as ambiguous as the enigmatic nature of its creator herself. For it breaks away from traditional literary conventions in the use of pauses, rhyming schemes, the sudden capitalization of words in the middle of a sentence to place greater emphasis on the word's significance within the poem. The further complexities of the poem stems from the various interpretations that can be gained from a large audience, even from readers well versed in Dickinson's works. As usual, I shall be applying my literary tool, SOAPs: speaker, occasion, audience, purpose, and subject, to further analyze this poem in its entirety. The speaker of this poem is the poet herself, Emily Dickinson, due to the singular nature of the poem's voice. The occasion of this poem is challenging to pinpoint, as Dickinson appears to be an instinctive writer who composed poetry on any scrap of paper the moment a thought inspired her at any moment of her day-to-day activities. However, considering the overall theme of isolation and overbearing despair, I would assess the occasion of the poem was motivated over Dickinson's attempt to understand herself in a community she was becoming less and less a part of. For the audience, while Emily Dickinson undoubtedly knew her poems would one day be published, I think all her poems were written and kept in a manner not dissimilar to how one keeps a diary, and therefore kept only for her own eyes. To understand the poem's purpose, we have to understand the social and spiritual culture of Dickinson's home in Amherst, Massachusetts, where the values of education was on the rise, yet remained closely linked to the church, since religion, as was common at the time, was deemed the most important aspect in the community at the time. During her time at Mount Holyoke Seminary, it was a daily practice for students to be publicly organized into one of three groups: those who professed to spirituality, those who hoped to find faith, and those hopeless in the pursuit of faith. Dickinson aligned herself in the latter of the three. Therefore, the purpose of this poem is prompted by Dickinson's spiritual crisis, one that forever haunt her as it set her up to be an outcast by social expectation that battled with her conscience, that at times made her feel she was going mad, as can be seen in the opening line of the poem, I felt a funeral in my brain. The subject of the poem focuses on coming to terms with oneself in a spiritually valued world which Dickinson had no place. Yet despite the isolation and sense of despair, Dickinson comes to terms with her identity while living by a religion of her own making. Emily Dickinson was born in 1830 in Amherst, Massachusetts, in the same house where she would die in 1886. Possibly the greatest American poet, Dickinson lived the life of a recluse, yet would go forth to write a total of 1,775 poems. Upon her death, her poems were discovered by her sister Lavinia, who, alongside she and Emily Dickinson's sister-in-law, Susan, and the editor and writer Mabel Loomis Todd, worked to publish her poems. It is thanks to these three women who sought to preserve Emily Dickinson's legacy that we are able to love and appreciate her poetry today. If you enjoyed this podcast, please click the like icon and subscribe. Again, you are listening to the Authoress' Library. Have a good day.